Hey, Jimbo, you ready for this deal?
Live action.
Old stories like long lost friends, rodeos and late night bends, history before our time, round pens and pasture rides, cowboys of the Osage.
Howdy, friends and neighbors. Time once again for the Cowboys of the Osage podcast with your host, Jimbo Snively and Cody Garnett. Now let's sing a little bit about it. Cowboys of the Osage, riding once again. Always got some time for a friend. And here they are, the Cowboys of the Osage.
Howdy, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Cowboys of the Osage podcast, brought to you by the Ben Johnson Cowboy Museum, the Buck and Flamingo Turquoise Shop, and now Saucy Calf, traditional Native American food, all located right here in historic downtown Pawhuska, Oklahoma. Hey, it's old Cody over here, and as always, I have my main man with me, Mr. Rodeo Historian himself, Jimbo Snively. Hey, good morning, Jimbo. Good to see you. Who the heck are we talking to today?
Hey, Cody boy, it's another great day in Osage. And Cody, we got one of the great Wyoming cowboys. Anytime you talk about Wyoming ropers, his name's always going to come up. And, of course, I'm talking about Glen Barlow, three-time NFR steer roper, just a great steer roper, has that reputation as a real steer roper.
Great horseman, too.
Yeah, a great horseman. And he's also got into the Snaffle Bit Futurity. He was a Snaffle Bit Futurity champion. He's been a cutting horse champion. He's a cow horse champion. I mean, somebody told me the other day, says he's just been successful at everything he does. Whatever he tries, he's a successful rancher. Just got the whole package. So we're just glad to finally get to talk to him. Like I said, we brought his name up several times on these podcasts when we get talking about ropers from up in that country. But Glenn, welcome to the Cowboys of the Osage podcast.
Well, thank you, Jimbo and Cody, and I'm just honored to have you guys call me up and visit with me. And, I've enjoyed your podcasts, and like I said, this is just an honor to have you guys talk to me.
Well, shoot, it's our pleasure.
Jimbo, when I was a little old kid, I used to spend a little bit of time at his house up there in Wyoming.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I did. Probably, who knows what all I tore up around there. Who knows?
You're probably still trying to fix it.
Probably.
Yeah, I remember that, Cody. Your mom and dad had come up here, and they'd come to those Wyoming jackpots, and you'd stay up here for a week or two and hang around our house. And we'd get to rope, and we had a lot of fun.
Do you remember that time I barely remember it. I was a little kid playing in a yard over there at your house, and you and my dad came running up there in quite a rush, and you were quite concerned. There was some sort of wild dog that y'all saw, and he was headed straight for the house. You remember that?
Yeah, I remember that, Cody. That was a little too Wild West. We'd better forget about some of those times.
Okay, you got it.
Where'd you grow up at, Glenn?
I grew up right here in Gillette. In fact, the ranch that we live on, my great-grandfather came here in 1898. He homesteaded here, and our family's been here. I'm the fourth generation on this place.
Where did your grandfather come from? Great-grandfather?
He came from Dawson County, Nebraska. He left there. His mother had passed away, and he left there because his father had married another woman, and him and his brothers didn't get along with their new stepmother, so they packed up and left home. I believe he was 14 years old when he left.
Wow.
And took off on his own and came to Wyoming.
Kids just did things like that back then. They didn't stick around too long a lot of times and just went off on their own.
Yeah. Well, you look at it, we're blessed to live in the world we live in today, because there were some tough times how people
they had
live.
to be tough, and then to move to a place like Gillette, you got to be pretty tough to live up there, I think.
Oh yeah, yeah.
1898. I can only imagine the junk pile full of ranch stuff they have right there. Holy moly, all the way from 1898.
Wonder how many antelope he ate back then to survive.
Yeah, they lived on antelope and deer, and but like I said, it was a tough life, and the way he survived, I think he was probably a pretty smart man. There was, water was very important, and so there was right over by our house where we lived, there was a reservoir there, and that was the only water in this whole area, and he bought that from the United States government in a penal grant. Wow. And so then he controls the water. So then, other homesteaders would come along, and he would, buy them out, and that's how he put this ranch together. But he was mainly, back then, they did everything with horses, and his main enterprise was he raised horses.
Did they
work?
Go ahead.
Horses to everything you did, you had to do with horses. So
right.
A lot of horses to work, and some to ride, but mainly horses that you'd hook up and pull a plow or pull a Fresno or do something like that with.
Right. Did they ever run any sheep up there on that ranch?
A few. Yeah, there's been times that we run sheep, but our family is mainly cattle and horses. I guess the sheep, you run into the problem of predators.
Yeah.
And anytime we've had sheep, I guess the predators kind of put us out of business. So we just stick with cattle. That's our main enterprise.
I heard the eagles up there are pretty rough on sheep.
Well, yeah, that's one of the predators. Eagles, coyotes, foxes.
Have they introduced any wolves up there, Glenn?
I think there's been some introduced in Wyoming, but to this point, I can't say I've seen a wolf.
Right. I remember as a kid, 50 years ago, going from Douglas to Gillette, and I thought that was the longest, most desolate road I ever saw in my life. But anyway, somebody had a bunch of buffalo up there on a ranch. You know anything about that?
Yeah, that's Flokinis have a ranch there. Probably at that time, Jimbo, that was the largest buffalo herd in the world.
Well, yeah, that's what I thought. I thought, man, I've never seen so many buffalo. We drove down the highway.
Yeah, that's some people. They're originally from California, and they bought that ranch, and it's stocked. They run about 2,500 head of buffalo there, and they've got a chain of Safeway stores in California, and so they market that buffalo meat through the stores out in California. Right. But it's quite an impressive operation to go look at and see.
Well, like I said, that was 50 years ago when I remember, and they didn't have as many buffalo everywhere like they do now. And I thought, man, I didn't know, never heard of this big old herd up here. It was a bunch of buffalo.
Yeah.
Well, how'd you get interested in roping, Glenn?
How'd I get interested in roping? That's, I maybe I was born that way. I think God put a rope in my hand or something, I guess. They got pictures of me when I was a little kid, probably, 4 or 5 years old, and I was always dragging a rope around. I think that was my toy. But I guess the first time I remember knowing anything about steer roping, they used to have a roping in Bighorn, Wyoming. It was called Bill Eaton Day, and as I remember, it was a big deal. It was at Kelly Howie's ranch, which was just outside of Bighorn, and he'd invite 20 top steer ropers. It was an invitational deal, so he'd have 20 top steer ropers come to it, and then he would also have 2 top bronc riders, and he'd have a match bronc riding. And as I remember, he'd have like the number 1 and number 2 bronc riders in the standings come. And when I was about, maybe in junior high or something, my folks took me up there to see that roping, and I guess I was just amazed to, I'd heard about steer roping, but I'd never seen it. And then, after that, Nick Harris used to put on, he had a roping that he put on in Gillette, and he'd always need, like when I was in high school, he'd need shoot help. So I'd get make a couple of dollars being shoot help at the Nick Harris roping.
Yeah, that's where I was going. And 50 years ago with my Uncle Joe, we were going to a jackpot there at Nick Harris's.
And that's Bobby's dad, isn't it?
Yeah, Bobby's dad.
Yeah, that's Bobby Harris's dad.
That would have been like 1972 or something, I think it was, when I was up there with Joe.
Yep. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
They still have any ropings there at that arena? That was a nice arena, as I remember.
That arena, where the arena was back then, is a fire hall now.
Really?
Which they've moved everything in Gillette out to Camplex, where they have the high school rodeo. So it's all in a new complex. But I think so. Bobby Harris's son had a roping last fall up here, and I didn't get to go to it because I didn't know about it. But every once in a while they still have a steer roping here. There's been a lot of steer ropings in Gillette.
Yeah. Did your dad rope?
No, the only roping my dad probably did was here on the ranch.
Right.
Like I said, I don't know how I got that bug to rope, but maybe like I was born with it, or who knows why.
Who helped you start roping steers, Glenn?
Who helped me start roping steers? Oh, when I was going to college, Jim Davis was going to school at Laramie the same time I was. So Jim would be around Laramie, and I remember in the wintertime he'd tie steers, so we'd go tie steers with him. And I guess he got me started tying. And then, excuse me, after I got out of college, I came back home, and in college I roped calves and team roped, and I didn't really have anybody up here to team rope with. All my buddies in school didn't live around here, so I'd seen steer roping and got interested in it, and I thought, I'm going to try that deal. So Jim Davis got me hooked up with Tuffy Thompson, and I got the opportunity, or I really don't know why Tuffy was so nice to me, but Tuffy's just a great person.
Just a nice guy, yeah.
Oh yeah, just a super nice guy, and he didn't know me from anybody. And I got to go down there to Tuffy's, and I spent 2 weeks down there roping with him, and he kind of got me started. And so then I went from Tuffy's, and they had these Wyoming Steer Roping Association jackpots, and so I started going to them and trying to figure out how to do this deal.
We just lost Tuffy here a few months ago, Cody. He was a former world champion, maybe twice. And
yeah, he was a good dude.
Yeah, real nice guy. I've roped in that arena where he's talking about down there at Happy.
I got a chance to work with him quite a few times. We used to supply the cattle at the National Final Steer Roping, and they had it there in Amarillo. And Tuffy Thompson sit out there in the arena and run out steers, and I was untying steers at the time. And I got to spend a lot of time with him and Clinton Johnson right out there in that arena.
Tuffy had a brother named Bobby that ran one of the big ranches down there. I forget which one, but he was a super nice guy. And he roped a little bit too. But
Tuffy got me started out, and kind of I tell you, Tuffy got me headed down the right street.
Right. Right. What were those Wyoming Association ropings like?
Well, gosh, you're maybe asking the wrong guy. I thought they were the best thing in the world. I just loved going to those jackpots up here. You'd go. We'd have them every weekend from about Memorial Weekend till the rodeos started around, and it was a way to practice to get ready to go to the rodeos. And you could go to those jackpots, and like Cody can probably tell you, they'd have one over Memorial Weekend was probably the biggest one of the year, and we'd have fresh steers usually, and we'd get guys come from the Northwest and come from Texas and Oklahoma who'd come up to it. And gosh, as I remember, some of those used to be, we might have 50, 60 ropers at them. They were just, really good jackpots, and everybody had a lot of fun. And we would have, every time we had one, we'd have a Calcutta, and like I said, people just had a lot of fun at them, and it was a place for me to learn to rope.
I went to a big jackpot in the Wyoming Steer Roping Association one time, Jimbo. They have it up there at a good buddy of mine's house named Lee Eisenberger. I'd like to have him on the podcast, but we're a family-friendly podcast, and living up on that ranch by himself all them years, I think all he learned was cuss words. So, but anyway, they have a great roping called the Andy Tillard roping right there, where you have to wear a white shirt. It's the rules. If you don't wear a white shirt, you can't rope. And it's in memory of one of the Tillard brothers.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was always a great roping to go to.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we started having that rope, and Andy died of cancer. I think it's back in I believe it was 1991. And Lieberger put that roping on for 30 years. And then after he'd done it for 30 years, he said, he was tired of doing it. But a really great roping, and a tribute to Andy, and I guess a tribute to the whole Tillard family.
Oh, Jimbo, do you know Lee Eisenberger, Jimbo?
No, just no.
Oh my gosh, you got to get acquainted with this guy. He's just one of the best, funniest guys in the world. I used to go spend a couple weeks with him a year, between rodeos, and never had so much fun listening to a guy cussing all my life.
So yeah, so when we used to have those Wyoming ropings, like when I started going to him, Lieberger's mother, Pat, was the secretary. Pat Litton. Lee's dad got killed in an automobile accident, and then she remarried, and her name was Litton, but that's Lee's mother, and she used to secretary lots of rodeos and jackpots, and for the most part, she ran the Wyoming Steer Roping Association. I think it maybe would have fallen apart if it hadn't been for Pat Litton.
Yeah,
and
that was
so
big...
I just last week I went and saw her. She's in a home here in Gillette, and I think she's 96 years old, but she's just as sharp as a tack. But her age is definitely showing on her.
Yeah. Did you ever rope over to any of the Laramie ropings, the King Merritt Memorial, or any of that?
Yeah. There was. We got to rope down there a few times. You had to get an invite from Hyde, and that, So, but yeah, I got to rope down there in the pari-mutuel deal, and
yeah.
How did they run that? Did they take? How did they run the pari-mutuel? Who set the line on a steer roper?
Well, they just sold tickets, and it was based on how many tickets people bought on you. They got the machine set up so that they're going to hold 15%. I think it was either 15% or 20% that they hold out of the pot, and so then the rest of it, based on how many tickets are sold, they split that up on how the payoff on the tickets are. I don't know if that all makes sense to you, but it's just basic gambling, and based on who has the most tickets bought on them, and so the more tickets that are bought on you, then the less it's going to pay.
Kind of like horse racing, pari-mutuel horse racing.
Yeah, exactly like horse racing. The same people operates under the same law as horse racing.
Yeah.
I heard they were going to add pari-mutuel betting at Cheyenne just a few years ago, but I don't think they ever added it. They were going to have a ticket window. You go right up there, bet on your favorite saddle bronc rider, roper, whatever, Jimbo.
Yeah. That would add some fun to it. Unless you lost, I guess.
I remember they always had some good Calcuttas up there. Old Bobby Harris's mom sure made those Calcuttas interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember her. I guess Nick Harris is still alive, isn't he?
as near as I know.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's alive. They said he was at this jackpot last fall.
Wow.
And I haven't seen him, I probably haven't seen him. I saw him at Don King Days a couple of years ago was the last time I saw Nick.
Speaking of Don King Days, you won that one time, didn't you?
Yeah, they have let me win Don King Days. That was quite a deal.
How do they run Don King Days for everybody that hasn't been there? I've never been there, but I've heard about it.
Yeah, me too.
Well, Don King Day started out, I mentioned that roping that they had at Kelly Howie's that they called Bill Eaton Day. Well, they quit having that roping on Labor Day weekend, and some people got to talking about it, and they had the polo field up here. The polo club built a new polo field at Bighorn, which I think it has 17 acres in it, and people got to talking around and said we need to have a roping, and I remember Bill Sims and I went and talked to Don King one day and said we'd like to call this roping Don King Day, and he was, I guess, he agreed to it and was very supportive. Him and his family were very supportive of our roping, which that wasn't why we asked him.
Who is
Don King? He started King Saddlery. He's a artist, a super good guy, rope maker, probably one of the best leather toolers that I've ever seen as far as, tooling saddles or tooling leather. But he was just a super good guy that did a lot for the Western community, and we thought it'd be a good deal if we named the roping after him. So he agreed to have us call the roping Don King Days, and it's been amazing how that thing. The first year we had it, we had 2 days of roping, and we only advertised the second day because we thought the first day we were going to have a lot of mistakes and things aren't going to go wrong. And it was just a Wyoming steer roping jackpot. We were having our year-end finals. We thought, well, the first day, we'll have stuff break down and it'll just be a mess. And so we advertised the second day, and we thought the second day we'll have things worked out. And there was a lot of people showed up, and I think it's probably been like every year since that first year. It's just grown and grown and grown, and it's like a social event on a polo field where people come, and I don't know. It's hard to explain unless you've been there.
There's no fences around it, is there? It's not like you're having it inside of an arena.
No, there's no fences, and it's it's set up kind of like a Pendleton start. They run a steer down an alley, and they come out of some pens, and then he just goes out onto the grass. And then I guess kind of following Kelly Howie's lead, they have a match bronc riding with it. We've had other events. They've had cowboy polo and cow milking and steeple chases, and they've had lots of things, that kind of Western horse sports.
Don't they do the bronc riding the old style where they take a bronc out there and snub him up and they get on him in the middle of the pasture?
Well, they used to. Here the last few years, that was taking too long, and so they've been saddling them up in a chute and bringing them out of a chute saddled up just to speed things up. But yeah, it's an old time bronc ride, and they flank them out there on the grass.
So, do people park around the polo fields to keep everything in, or how do they do that?
Yeah, and like I said, it's just grown and evolved. The polo club has put up a fence. They didn't used to have a fence, so along part of it there's a split rail fence. But then people park along it, and how how our world is. They sell parking spots there now, so people set up like little yard parties and have barbecues along or around the roping, and like I said, it's like a big social event people go to.
Steer roping on the polo fields, Jimbo.
Well, Glenn, I never think of Wyoming as polo country, but talk about the polo, what they do up there, and how did all that get started?
Jimbo, one of our famous polo players from right here in Osage County, Tommy Wayman, has a place up there.
Yeah. Tom, I didn't know Tommy Wayman was from Osage County, but I know here. Tommy Wayman. Yeah. He's got a place up in Bighorn. Kind of the way they explained it to me, they used to have, well, what was the polo ranch, or still is the polo ranch. They played polo over there, and I guess a lot of the big high number of polo players in the United States would play polo in Florida in the winter, and then in the summertime they wanted to get out of the heat of Florida, so they'd come to Bighorn, Wyoming, and play polo up here in the summer. And so, and I think polo has gone on up there around the Sheridan Bighorn area for longer than I can remember. I think when I was a small boy, I can remember people playing polo up there.
Wow. That's interesting. Just don't think of that in Wyoming,
It's big time polo country up there, Jimbo. Right there in Sheridan. Right there.
Oh yeah, they've got there's a polo field right next to where they have the steer roping that they say is a world class polo field where that Ski Johnson built. That is, they say they play, high number polo on that field, and some really big polo games take place there.
Did you do much calf roping, team roping? You said. Then you just concentrated on the steer roping?
Yeah, when I was in college and high school, I roped calves and team roped. And like I said, when I got out of college, I don't know, maybe the seed had been planted in me or something, but steer roping fit my, I guess it fit my lifestyle, right, where I could go to some steer ropings and still try to get my ranch work done and what we had going on here at the ranch.
Right. What about the steer roping at Cheyenne? Do you ever have a lot of luck there?
Have I ever roped at Cheyenne?
No, have you had much luck there, or how'd you do?
Oh, I never won Cheyenne. I made the finals there a few times. Won some money in some go rounds, and I guess I always kind of liked Cheyenne. I'll tell people it was. I always think Cheyenne's the worst place in the world to rope, the way they've got things set up there, and so that's maybe why it was good for me. Yeah. Maybe everybody else was worried about how, what a bad setup it was, and I could win a little money there.
Yeah, it's unique, to any place else for sure.
Seemed like for a lot of years, a lot of the same guys won most of the money at Cheyenne, Jimbo. They just had the arena figured out or something.
Yeah.
Lady Luck helped them out right there at that one arena, but I got to say it's a little more than Lady Luck for some of these guys as often if they were winning money up there.
Yeah, you got to draw right, but then you got to be smart enough and know what you're doing. What
do you think about them running all the steer open 1 week before the performances and backing the barrier off to 20 foot?
I guess if they were to ask me, I would say I wouldn't tell them I wouldn't be in favor of it. I think they're not helping the sport out. And I heard they tied the steers, or maybe they didn't tie. I don't know if they tied the steers. I heard they tied. Yeah, it just changes Cheyenne. Yeah. I wouldn't be in favor of it at all. But right. That's like, the last day of it. I watched it last year. I think Troy won it. Troy Tillard won it, and he beat him in the short round, which would have been the short round. But I would still think that the guy that ropes three of them the fastest there ought to be the champion. But That isn't how they do it now. That's not the way they do rodeo now either.
Right.
All these big rodeos are like the last days like a one header.
You know, I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy at all. I'm just calling them like I see them. You know, Cheyenne, they tell everyone they're the daddy of them all, in the history of Cheyenne, and they love to follow the history of Cheyenne, but don't seem like they're following the history of Cheyenne anymore, as traditional as it was. It just doesn't seem like it.
No, I agree with you. And you know, where they run it all way ahead of time, they want cowboys to get in and out of there. And, you know, that used to be a big part of Cheyenne. You'd go there and you'd be there a lot of people would be there all week.
Right. Oh my God. I caused so much trouble up there, Jimbo, and gotten so much trouble up there. Right up until the last time I went too, I think. I mean, from the time I was a little kid till the last time I roped there.
That's not surprising.
Hey, Glenn, what do you look for in a steer roping horse? You got such a good eye for a horse. What's some of the traits you look at when you're thinking about starting one?
Gosh, what do I look for?
Yes, sir. In a steer roping horse in particular.
Well, you just look for, a great horse. And I know people told me, I remember Dave Bliss told me one time, he said, you know, people go looking for a great horse. He said, they're going to find you. I guess the ones that I've had, I just stumbled across them maybe. You know, I guess I never looked for a real big horse. You got to have one that's got some intelligence and some run and you know, a lot of heart to him. But just to say I could go and, you know, pick one out of a herd, that'd be real hard to do.
Yeah.
I see here you won the Snaffle Bit Futurity.
What's that?
I see here you won the Snaffle Bit Futurity back sometime back. What is that exactly? Because, you know, I've just been a rodeo guy. I don't keep up with all the horse showing and cutting world and Snaffle Bit world. All I know is my son wants to be a Snaffle Bit world champion one day.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, I read a quote the other day, and it said, "Things that don't lie: small children, yoga pants, and snaffle bits." So, what explain the Snaffle Bit stuff?
Well, it's a Spanish style of training a horse that I guess it originated out in California, and now it's evolved to where they have the Futurity in Fort Worth. But it's a reined cow horse, and you take a 3-year-old. And back when I went to it, you couldn't show them before you went to the Futurity. Now they let you you can go to some shows before you go, but you compete in 3 events. You do herd work, you do a reining pattern, and then you do a fence work, which you take a single cow and you have to turn it at least once each way on the fence and then circle it at least once each way in the arena. And it's a judged event.
I know the guy that wins that, Jimbo, is considered one of the greatest horsemen in the world. The people that win the Snaffle Bit Futurity down in Fort Worth. Just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I know that's what they're considered, and it's one of the biggest titles in all of Western sports, Jimbo, the Snaffle Bit Futurity.
Well, I know. It's a big deal. Did you ride your own horses, Glenn, or were you riding somebody else's horse?
No, I rode my own horses. I showed in the non-pro, and to be in the non-pro, you have to ride your own horse.
Right.
So, and that's the non-pro is people that aren't riding outside horses for money. So, and like I said, that deal kind of fit in with my ranching too, because I could ride those horses around here on the ranch and try to get them ready to go out there. And then if I had a good one, we'd enter out there and
how did that change your life, winning that, Glenn?
Oh, I don't think it changed it at all. Well, why would that change my life?
Well, a lot of people take notice of whoever wins that, and you know, they want to know what that guy knows.
Well, I guess I wouldn't think it shouldn't make me any different than I was before. I was just, I tell you what, I was just really blessed to have a really good horse that I won it on. And so my thought on any event with a horse is it's a competition of the horse. And I think people get to thinking that they can, train a horse. I think we need to remember that it's a competition of the horse, and usually the best horse wins. And I was just blessed to have a really good horse that I won that on. I also think it's the same way in the steer roping.
Yeah.
People that are winning a lot are the ones that have really good horses. And the money that I won in the steer roping, like I said, I was very blessed to have, maybe one of the best horses going when I was able to go to the finals. And that's how I got to go to the finals.
Were those finals the first one or two? Was that Laramie that you went to? Is that right? Or were they all at Laramie?
No, I went to the first one. I went to at Laramie, and then the next two I went to at the Lazy E. Okay. I got the rope at the Lazy E the first year they had it at the Lazy E.
Okay.
Boy, howdy! What was that like popping into the Lazy E the very first time they had the national finals there, and in the facility they built for it?
Yeah, it was that was kind of amazing to pull in there. In fact, when we pulled in there before the roping, it wasn't even, they didn't even have it finished. So they were trying to, I remember they were just trying to put the finishing touches on it. And that was the last year they had the national finals in Oklahoma City, the first year that they had the steer roping at the Lazy E. So there was a tremendous amount of people came from Oklahoma City out to the Lazy E. The Lazy E was full for the steer roping that year. And as I remember it, the first day we roped there, they had to delay the start because people couldn't get in there. The road wasn't big enough. It just had a little old gravel road from the interstate over there to the Lazy E. And
it was a windy river too.
Yeah, windy.
Yeah, there was traffic backed up forever, and people couldn't get in there to the roping. And I can't remember how late we were starting, but a lot of people came from Oklahoma City to watch it. And I thought, man, this is the best thing ever for steer roping. And then next year, the finals went to Las Vegas, and you could sit anywhere you wanted to at the Lazy E.
I got in a lot of trouble at the Lazy E growing up too, Jimbo. Yeah. Running around getting in stuff I wasn't supposed to.
Yeah. Well, wouldn't have been Cody if you hadn't done that. I haven't been there in a long time. Is that road, have they ever improved the road? Is it still winding, the same track it was?
There's a couple roads to get there now. It's still pretty windy. In fact, one year, I think Roy Cooper wrecked his truck and broke his leg and couldn't rope in the steer roping finals on that windy road.
Wow.
Huh.
Might have been one of them first years where Glen Barlow was there. I can't remember.
Well, when I was there, Roy he roped. He wasn't hurt.
Okay.
You roped in a period of awful tough steer ropers, Glenn. You roped against Guy Allen, Jim Davis, Phil Lyons, Sean Burchett, Roy Cooper. That's kind of a who's who of steer ropers. That's pretty tough getting, wasn't it?
T. Woman, Bobby Harris, you name it.
T. Woman, Bobby Harris, Arnold Phelps. It was, which that's what makes you good, is if you get to compete against, people that rope good. Right. I was just blessed to get to be there at the time.
How many rodeos did they have that you went to when you were making the steer roping with steer roping? How many rodeos had steer roping when you were going up and down the road, Glenn?
That's been a long time ago, but I'm going to guess there was maybe 30. I know back when I was going to him, James Allen was the director, and he did a lot to promote getting more rodeos. And I'm guessing I didn't get to go to all of them, but there are a couple of years when I went to the finals. We tried to go to nearly all of them because you about had to go to nearly all of them to make the finals.
Yeah, I think that actually the steer roping, it went from about 10 or 12 rodeos, Jimbo, to 30, 40 rodeos overnight when James Allen took over almost.
Yeah, he did a lot.
That's exactly right. Yeah, James changed the whole game.
So did his boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, he's a good guy, though. I like old Guy Allen.
Yeah, there's nobody better than Guy Allen. He's a super person, and you wouldn't, if you ran into him downtown, you wouldn't know that he'd won the world championship as many times as he had. He's just a super humble individual.
What made you quit steer roping, Glenn?
Probably age. I guess I don't. My kids got in high school and they wanted the high school rodeo, and we just didn't have time to do it. And you know, I had other things that I needed to do and other interests. Like I said, my son wanted to start cutting, and you know, there's only so many hours in the day, and only so much that we can do.
What about that cutting business? So you kind of went from snaffle bits and you did some steer roping in your life, and then you became world-class cutting horse man.
Well, we compete in the amateur and the non-pro a little bit, but it's like I really enjoy. I guess one thing I enjoy doing is messing with horses and trying to figure horses out. And I guess horses are an addiction of mine or something. And so I guess cutting is an event that you can compete in till you get fairly old. And I'm getting to be fairly old, and they still let me compete pretty well in it. So I guess that's one reason I like it. But I really enjoy trying to figure out how to get a horse to do what we need him to do.
How different are the cutting horses and say if you were looking for a steer horse? Some of the same breeding, or is it totally different, Glenn?
Well, Jimbo, if I was looking for one today, that would probably be what I would get, because some of my steer horses were snaffle bit horses or cull snaffle bit horses. And I guess I think, you know, God put horses on earth and they don't all have the same occupation, and we just need to find the occupation that they fit into. So like I said, I've had some pretty good steer horses that were snaffle bit horses. And like I said, if I were to go find a horse to try to make a steer horse out of now, I'd probably look for something that had some cutting blood in it, just for the intelligence and trainability, and you know, that's kind of where I'd start to look.
Right.
You guys got your own breeding program up there now, don't you, Glenn?
Yeah, we've got a couple of mares that we do embryo transfers and ixies on that we're trying to, you know, raise colts out of that. And mainly we're trying to work on the bloodlines that we've had success with.
What are those for everyone listening? So maybe they can.
Well, we've had, so in the cutting world, the best bloodline ever, or I guess that's what I'd have to say, is Highbrow Cat. He has blown everybody in the world away. So we have a daughter, a Highbrow Cat, that we've bred to dual ray, and most of the money I've won in the cutting has been on her sons or daughters that were out of dual ray. And so then we've taken those daughters and breeding them to some probably sons of Metallic Cat that are Stevie Ray Vaughan or Metallic Rebel. We've had pretty good luck with them. So that's kind of where we've been going.
And you've never rode anybody else's horses in the snaffle bit or the cutting?
No. If I rode other people's horses, then I'd have to be in the open. You know, then that's a full-time job, and I've got a full-time job. And then I also look at it, you know, messing with horses is what I do for fun or for my pleasure. And if have to start riding other people's horses, then it becomes work. And so I choose to just we ride our own horses, and then if things don't go good, I don't, I'm not having somebody that owns a horse mad at me, and I can be mad at myself. So that's kind of how we operate. We get along better if we ride our own horses.
Right. I don't blame you.
Did you have someone like Tuffy Thompson helping you with that snaffle bit and this cutting world, or did you just figure it all out on your own?
No, I've had a lot of people help me. Gosh, I had. When I started snaffle bitting, I know I went to Kenny Pugh was up here in Gillette and put on a clinic, and so I went to that clinic, and there's been a lot of people help me. When I started snaffle bitting, there was a old bronc rider named John Holman lived here in Gillette. He was training cow horses, so I'd go out there to his place and hang around anytime I had free time and try to figure out what to do and how to train a horse. So yeah, there's been lots and lots of people help me out in the snaffle bit and then in the cutting also. Because people tell me, they say, well, snaffle bitting's a lot like cutting. They may be similar, but I tell them it's like, I look at it, it's about like if you're going to play football or if you're going to play basketball. I think there's about that much difference in the two events.
What kind of cattle do you run on your ranch, Glenn?
We've got they're mainly red Angus commercial cattle.
Cows?
Cow calf year. Yeah. We keep the calves till yearlings, and that way if it doesn't rain, we have something that we can use for a drought plan, something that we can sell pretty easy and cut back our numbers. So, and then if we do get rain, we can keep those yearlings and run them till fall.
How long is this cattle market going to hang in there?
How long?
Yeah.
How long does it hang in there?
Yeah.
Oh, well, Jimbo, you and I are both old enough to know that it isn't going to hang in there.
Right. That's why I asked it. How long?
Yeah.
I've always been interested on how you guys take care of your livestock in the winter up there.
Well, I'll tell you how we take care of ours. We try to get a cow that's adapted to this environment, and she takes care of herself. We make sure that they've got some grass to eat and water to drink and salt, and then we give them a little bit of a protein supplement. But other than that, they take care of themselves
all winter long, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, they graze. Our cow herd grazes all winter long, and they also their calf grazes all winter long with them. We don't wean calves until I think this year we cut our calves off in March.
You got to go out there and count them every day all winter long, or
do we do? It
just seems like a rough place to work, to be a rancher in the winter.
Oh, you learn to dress for it and to deal with it. And, I don't know, it's just like anywhere you get used to it. It's where we live and it's home. And
I guess if you don't know no better, it's no big deal.
Yeah. It's, I've been at Pahuska down there in the summertime at that roping, and you'll about melt down there.
Oh yeah.
And so, it's how do you deal with that? And how do cows deal with that heat down there? They got to deal with heat down there, and they got to deal with some cold up here.
They shade up around here.
Yeah.
Shade up.
Yeah. Well, that's why we'll find a warm spot up here too.
Glenn, if you were making a Mount Rushmore of Wyoming Wyoming ropers in general, who would you put on it? Need 4 names.
Need how many names?
4. Mount Rushmore.
4.
Yep.
4. Oh gosh, I'd put my old traveling partner Jim Evans on there. Bobby Harris, for sure Bobby Harris. They got to be from Wyoming.
Yeah.
Got to have a Wyoming address.
Yeah. And it could be past, not necessarily modern, guys that you rope with, but just who do you think belongs on it?
I'd put Dewey Lee David on it. Troy Tillard.
Okay.
I'd put. You know what? I'll tell you a good one. If I let him ride my horse, I might put Troy's dad Tim on.
Hey,
Tim will understand that if he happens to listen to this. But
they're good folks.
Oh, they're super folks. I traveled with Tim a lot for years and years.
Jim,
Tim and Marty and I, we've been a lot of places together.
Their driveway over there, the Tiller's driveway, is 40 miles long, Jimbo. 40-mile long driveway to their house.
Surely you're exaggerating.
No, I'm not, am I, Glenn?
It's 14.
Oh, 14.
14 miles. It's 40
like
miles.
40.
I think it's probably 50 some from town out there.
Yeah.
At which there's been a lot of oil activity there, and the road's a lot better now than it used to be. It used to be a dirt road. If it rained, you didn't get in or out.
Let's go ahead and do your Mount Rushmore on just steer ropers in general. Any steer roper.
Any steer roper?
Yes, sir. They don't have to be from Wyoming.
Shoot, any steer roper, I'd just take Guy Allen and just take pictures of him and put it all the way around.
Yeah, no joke.
I think he was way the best steer roper that ever lived. But I guess if you want me to give you 4 of them,
for sure,
that's tough.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Because I could come up with 20 easier than 4.
Thinking you probably put Tuffy Thompson on there since he helped you out.
Yeah, I'd probably put Tuffy on there. I'd probably put, I don't know if you'd want them from my era. Would be.
It doesn't matter. Any era. We had a guy put Bob Crosby on there the other day.
Oh yeah, yeah. See that was way before me. I'd put Tuffy on there. I'd probably put back when I was starting out, Sonny, Olin, Walter. Then you could look at later on you put Jim Davis, Sean Burchett.
What about Shelt Webster?
Yeah, which that was way before my time. But yeah, you could put Shelt Webster. You could put heck, you'd have to put Trevor up there.
No doubt. It's just tough. It's tough to come up with 4 names when you
sure is.
When you just have the King Merritt. He could have went on the Wyoming one, I guess.
Yeah, because he's the only world champion steer roper.
Yeah, he's probably the only one ever from Wyoming, is he?
Yeah, he is. He is.
Yeah. I missed that one.
Did you ever know his son-in-law, John Dalton?
Yeah, I did. Not real well, but I know him. I knew his kids. I knew Dan and Jock better than John.
Yeah. John was a good hand when I was a kid. Steer roper, calf roper, good all-around hand. I think he won the all-around Pendleton maybe twice. I'm not sure. He was sure a tough hand.
Yeah.
Oklahoma, Texas, and Wyoming. That's where the toughest steer ropers are from, Jimbo.
Yep.
Oklahoma, Texas, Wyoming, in that order. Because a lot of the Texans now used to be Okies, so we consider them still Okies. So.
Yeah. And Cody, I think this is just my thought, but I think the reason that people from Wyoming are mentioned there is because of the Wyoming Steer Roping Association.
I agree with you right there. I mean, it gives people a chance to learn the ropes before they start jumping there with the wolves, I guess you'd say.
Hey, so back up a minute. If I was going to put somebody on that from Wyoming, I'd probably put Bud Tillard up there.
Oh yeah,
because he's done a tremendous amount for steer roping in Wyoming. You could put Bud Tillard and King Merritt.
No doubt. Put Don King on there if you want.
Yeah.
He may not have
But
been a
they-
roper, but he's very influential in the steer roping business.
Yeah, Don did a lot for the whole horse industry, the whole equine industry in this area and all over the United States.
Have you ever been up there to King Saddlery, Jimbo?
No, never have. Heard a lot about it.
It's amazing. It's an amazing place. They got a great museum, and they make a good rope, and they got a great store there. And it's right across, kind of not very far from this place called the Mint Bar, right downtown Sheridan. I spent a lot of time in there when I was up in that country.
Have you ever noticed, though, on YouTube or whatever, all the celebrities that just all at once will have a King Ropes hat on?
Yeah, it's a whole pop culture.
I know.
King
It
rope
is.
hats,
I know
for sure.
I know.
It's a really cool place. I think you should go up there one of these days, Jimbo.
Yeah, it's a long ways from the house, so.
Boy, that's something else. You guys had that ranch in your family since 1898 all the way through today. That's really maybe your biggest accomplishment you have.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think we've just been blessed to have. I think God gave it to us, and we just get to take care of it while we're here on this earth. I look out here every day and think, you know, how lucky am I? I'm the luckiest guy in the world.
He might be the most talented guy in the world too, Jimbo.
Sound like
Snaffle Bit champion,
Like I
steer
said,
roping,
Yeah,
son of a gun from Wyoming, and cutting horse champion.
yeah, I know.
I mean,
Everything he does, and
well, that's the three hardest disciplines to be very successful at. I can tell you that right
and a
now.
successful rancher, highly successful rancher in pretty tough country.
An all-around good guy.
Yeah, an all-around good guy.
I'll be dang. Well, we sure appreciate you coming on today, Glenn.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me. I hope I did you some good.
Oh, you did.
Do you ever sell any of those colts you guys raise, or do you just keep them for yourselves and break them?
No, we sell some. I have to tell you, I don't know if you guys know Dick Cogdell. Every once in a while, one of them comes along, or pretty often they test positive for ranch horse. So then, the ones that test positive,
Yeah.
maybe they'll test positive for ranch horse or team penner or something else, and so we have to. The number of them we raise, we have to sell some of them.
Well, if anyone's out there looking for a dang sure good one, I would suggest getting a hold of Glenn.
Well, that'd be great. Yeah. Well, thanks, Jimbo and Cody. I've enjoyed it. I hope you have too.
We have. We appreciate you coming on for us, Glenn.
If you ever get back down this way, come see us.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd love to come and see that museum.
Because it's
They
way
didn't have
easier for you to come see us than it is for us to come see you.
Yeah.
Last time I was in Pawhuska, they didn't have it, I don't think.
No.
No, Jimbo helped me open this deal just a few years ago. It hadn't been here very long, about 5 years or something, 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll let you know when it's going to come out, Glenn. I'll shoot you a text or call you or something, let you know how to find it.
Okay. That'd be good, Jimbo. Thank you.
Okay, you bet.
well, all right, everybody. This has been a good one. Be sure and like it, share it, even leave us a good review. I mean, we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Facebook, everywhere where you get your podcasts. So it helps me and Jimbo out, and we would sure appreciate it, everyone. And we'll see you next week.
Later.
Yeah.